Wow, wow. Please be seated. Shame on you for not standing. They gave me, I think they gave me just a few minutes to talk, so I'm just going to take a couple of cheap shots at Charlie, and then I'm going to say goodnight. I'm on New York time, so I went to bed about 10 minutes ago, but I'm here in body. It's such a blessing to be here, and I have to say, you know, Charlie should never make fun of me before I'm up here to speak, because I'm old enough to be, in fact, I am his biological father. He doesn't like me to say that publicly, because he's kind of freakishly tall. If you get around him, it's kind of odd, you know. But his mom was a big woman, and you know what? Listen to me. That's in the past. That's pre-Christian. I don't want to get into that. But bottom line is that that might not be true. But I don't want to get into that right now. We don't have time to get into that. But it's interesting. As his father, sitting listening to him talk earlier, I thought to myself, not a lot of substance. Not a lot of substance. It's just when he talks, right? It's like it's just so much. What's the word? I'm an English major. I'm a writer. Fluff. That's it. It's just so much fluff. He needs to tighten it up and give other people a chance to shine. That's my message to Charlie. It's sad. Pray for him. He's messed up. He's messed up. He's an unfocused mess. But I believe he'll find his feet eventually. I think I'm done. This is like my last pastor's conference. No, it's such a blessing. Listen, it is such an honor and a blessing to be here among so many wonderful people. It's a blessing to meet you when I get to meet you. But I got to tell you, I'm very excited about the film. You saw the trailer to the film. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the trailer traditionally is way shorter than the actual film. Did you know that? Yeah. The film is insane, okay? And it started because I spoke on my book, Letter to the American Church, at Rob McCoy's church. You know Rob McCoy? Rob McCoy is Charlie's pastor and my biological father. Yeah. He doesn't look that much older, but I'm just letting you know, it's a freak show, but God can redeem anything. But I was speaking at Rob McCoy's church. All right, I'm done. Thank you. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much. I was speaking at Rob McCoy's church on the book Letter to the American Church, and I'll say this bluntly, okay? I've never had this happen to me before. God called me to write this book, and this is not like Christianese language. I would never say that because I'm in awe of a holy God, and I would never say something like that unless it were true. But I had a burning desire. I said, I have to write this in obedience to God for God's purposes. And it was not like a career move. It was not like a fun book. But I knew God called me to write it. And when I wrote it, I was speaking at one of the first places I spoke was at Rob McCoy's church. And in Rob McCoy's church, there were two women that I've gotten to know, Simone, Alex, and Rachel Tash, who are here in the front row. And they're like Hollywood people. And they've given their lives to Jesus. And they said, we need to make that message into a film. And it's because of them and Rob McCoy and Charlie and others that this is a reality. And I say this because I want to encourage you, as I go around the country speaking in many churches, I get to meet the heroes. I get to meet the people that are laying it on the line. And I want to tell you something. Some of you are in this room. I get to see what you'll never, ever, ever read about in the news. You know you'll never read about it in Christianity Today, which has gone to hell. And I'm not speaking metaphorically. But I see it, that God has his hand on this nation, and we are currently in a war. We're in a war. It's a spiritual war. But the Lord has allowed this for his purposes. And the Lord has called us to be with him in this war for his purposes. So this is a holy moment in this nation. It's a holy moment. You get to be alive now when what you preach and what you say matters 1,000 times more than it would have 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And the Lord has called us to this. And people often say, because, Christians can be very unchristian. And they can say a lot of stupid things that are really, they're being the voice of the devil, right? So they're fatalists and they go like, it's over. That's the voice of Satan. Are you proud of yourself saying that, Mr. Christian? It's not over. The Lord will decide when it's over. In the meantime, He has commanded you to serve Him with all your gifts, to actually behave as though you believe He defeated death on the cross. You get to live that way now. And anybody who says, well, that's not for me, whatever, God is a judge, and you should be scared. Because God has called His church to stand now. And some of you know Letter to the American Church. I make the case, and this is where you wish you were wrong. The German church in the 30s was exactly where the American church is today. Exactly. Many good pastors, good men, missed it. They were not evil men. They cared, but they missed it. They didn't hear the prophetic voice of Bonhoeffer speaking to them. They didn't believe that what they did that day, that week, that month could change history. And in dithering and hesitating and playing church, which is an ugly thing when you play church, when you are not the church, when you play church. We got a nice thing going. I don't want to say anything that I might lose some big tithers. If that's where you're coming from, God will judge you. He will curse you like the fig tree. That church will die. If you speak what God calls you to speak, God will show you the hunger for truth that you forgot existed. You forgot that we are made to hunger for truth. And that you will have pagans and atheists show up at your church because they know something's wrong. And there's somebody who is speaking freedom and who believes in something, and they're drawn to that. Because most pagans know something's wrong. When you start speaking insanity, when you talk about we're going to defund the police, you go, what? What? I remember when I first heard that, I thought, what? That's a joke, right? Nobody's that dumb. It's not possible. A man can become a woman can become a man. The dumbest thing anybody's ever said. Having a southern border is racist. Yeah, I don't like brown people. That's why I want, I want a southern border. Ladies and gentlemen, everything we do, okay, if you don't care about children being raped, if you don't care about women and children being sex trafficked, you can ignore the southern border. Ignore that issue. But if you want to open your eyes and understand that satanic, vicious drug cartels are controlling that, that's real. That's in America. If you don't care about that, why don't you care about that? If you don't care about who you vote for, you think politics is a non-issue, you don't care about those children being sex trafficked, this is real. And we're living in a time where I believe the Lord has allowed all of this lunacy to happen for His purposes, to wake up those who need waking up. And we know that if all of these things hadn't happened, okay, if we hadn't had an election that was almost certainly stolen. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but if you tell me, oh, you can't talk about that, I'm going to tell you I can talk about whatever I want. I live in America. Patriots have bled and died so that we can talk about anything we want. So when I talk about the idea that the vaccine might be harmful and people say, oh, you don't talk about that. Well, why wouldn't we talk about something that could affect us? We don't have to agree. But you see the spirit that has come in, a spirit of wanting to silence and cancel. That is an antichrist spirit. That's not just different politics, folks. It's an antichrist spirit. And there are people in the world who are not Christians who they can smell this is evil. This is not just politics. Something dark is happening. And people are hungrier than they have ever been in any of our lifetimes for truth, for God. There are plenty of people that would never think about God until now. So if you're preaching about these things, you're going to attract people. And everywhere I go, the pastors that invite me to their churches, they all have the same story. Our numbers have exploded. We've never seen anything like it. I hear this over and over and over again. And if I hadn't heard it over again, I would say I don't believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lord has called us to this hour. And this is Romans 8:28. All things work together for good. The nation going to hell, okay, is God's merciful wake-up call to his church. Now, you know, and this is a fact, this is not interpretation, the German church failed, okay? They failed. And it is a fact that the German church had the cultural power to turn things around and to oppose the Nazis. They had the cultural power if they had acted in time. But they dithered. They said, we don't want to be political. We don't want to be divisive. You know, we've got some people in our church who will get upset. We're not going to preach on that. We'll hang the swastika outside. We don't know what that will mean in the future. We just think it's, it's patriotic. We have churches hanging out other kinds of flags. And why are they doing it? They're doing it because they have no clue what they're doing. They don't understand what is at stake. We're talking about cultural Marxism. You all know Marxism is atheistic. Marxism says God is dead, God doesn't exist, and we're going to create a reality apart from God. First of all, good luck with that project. You can't do it. You're betting against the house. God created reality. He created us male and female in his image. You can do all the surgeries you want. You can never change that. God is the God of reality and history. And we are seeing now things that none of us ever dreamt we would see. But I mean it when I say Romans 8:28. The Lord is using this hour to wake people up. And there are people waking up every single day who were asleep yesterday and asleep the day before. And we are taking in this war, maybe it's an inch a day as we're crawling over broken glass. But I'm telling you, we are moving forward. And when I found out that Rachel and Simone wanted to make a film of my book, Letter to the American Church, you know what? I've wanted everything I write to be a streaming TV series, a film, except this book. It never even occurred to me one time, ever, that we could make a film about this. And I thought, a film? A documentary film? And they said, yeah, because, not everybody's going to read your book. We got to get the message out. And the fact is, folks, if by God's grace we can wake the church up, and enough pastors will speak about this, and enough Christians will speak. It doesn't need to be everyone, and it won't be everyone. But if there are enough who will stand and fight, I believe the Lord would give us the victory. And it's like Charlie said, we don't know for sure, but don't you want the Lord to see you fighting for what is right and true, even if it doesn't end up going the way you want it to? Bonhoeffer did that. He was hanged by the Nazis. But the point is, it's not about winning. It's about obedience to Jesus. And the title of the book, Letter to the American Church, I was going to call it, Faith Without Works is Dead. Because we live in a church where America, we've been so blessed that we forgot about the existence of evil. And if you don't understand how evil is, you kind of don't realize how amazing God is. You don't really believe Jesus needed to die on the cross. You don't believe that God needed to go that. You're not going to, if you don't understand the evilness of evil, you do not understand the price that God paid, and you will not act. You're just going to kind of hang out and play church. And those kinds of churches, folks, I tell people everywhere I go, if you're going to that kind of church that is not dealing with this stuff, get out of that church. And when I say get out of that church faster than you get out of Target, faster than you put down the Anheuser-Busch product. Do not darken the door of one of those churches, because if you're going to a church that is not dealing with this stuff, you are guilty. You are helping other people to think this is normal. We're not at war. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine, folks. The Lord has called us to war. If you ask George Washington in 1776, how's it going? What would he say? They were in a war. People were dying. But he said, but if providence be with us and we keep fighting, the Lord might give us the victory, so we will fight on. Imagine if he'd said, it's not looking good. You know, the odds makers say it's not worth it, so we're going to sit down. We're going to have a nice life. Well, that's the question. What is the Lord saying? And the Lord is alive, and he's speaking to us today. And the Lord is calling us to stand and fight and pray and stand and fight and speak and pray and stand and fight and pray. And I believe firmly that the Lord wants to give us the victory. He wants to bless this nation with revival, with a fiery revival and reformation. He wants his church not just to win against evil, but to go on the offense against evil. And I think we need to have that kind of faith. God is calling us to have that kind of faith. Ask the Lord to give you that kind of faith and fire. And when this film comes out, I don't know exactly how it's going to be released, if it's going to be a Fathom event, it's going to be churches. Folks, I beg you, drag everyone you know to see the film, because I believe we are genuinely at an inflection point in America, and it is up to the church. And who's the church? That's you. It is up to you to decide which way it goes, and which way America goes, the world goes. No pressure. God bless you.